Hello, my brother. Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Yesterday's episode was a powerful discussion, an interview with Sam Webb, co-founder of the mental health charity livin.org, whose motto is, "It ain't weak to speak." It ain't weak to speak about mental health issues, and livin.org's mission is to destigmatize mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and others, to make it cool to talk about mental health. And the episode was titled, "Calling for a Men's Mental Health Revolution." And in that episode, Sam talked about how being a man's man is quite possibly one of the most dangerous things a man can be. Because in our society, a man's man means being tough, going at it alone, never showing weakness, never having an insecurity, never letting the guard down, being impenetrable. And yet he saw a man like this in his life who was one of his closest friends, Dwayne Lally, who took his life at the age of 24, when on the surface, everything looked like he had the world in the palm of his hands. And so in 2013, Sam started the charity livin.org to raise awareness and to deepen our skill sets so that we can approach these conversations around mental well-being much more commonly, much more regularly, and for us to lead the way. So that leads me to asking you a really important question. Are you brave enough to lead your friends? And when I'm talking about your friends, I mean your guy friends, your boys. Are you brave enough to lead them to deeper discussions around mental well-being? That may seem like a daunting task, because I certainly know what it's like to be in a tribe or a group of boys where all we like to talk about is beers and boobs and bowel movements. And there is a time and a place for all that stuff, and I enjoy all of those things. And yet, when we bounce around the surface of just those things and we never go deeper, oftentimes we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes in the lives of the men that we care about most. And God forbid we have to go through what Sam went through when he lost his best friend Dwayne to a tragic expression of how he was feeling, which was taking his own life. And so I want to start with a pop quiz that if you've listened to the show from the very beginning, you may know the answer to this. Do you know who the unhappiest person in the world is? The unhappiest person in the world is a 45-year-old man. At least according to Arthur Brooks, who is deemed to be a happiness expert. He's written 7 books on the topic. And what Arthur Brooks has to say about the subject is that when a man is in his 20s or his 30s, he's trying to make something of himself in the world. He's set his goal, his path, his vision. He's willing to put a lot of things on the line and put blinders on to go after it. And in the process, he suspends certain freedoms. He suspends taking care of himself in many cases. And he's myopically focused on achievement. And in the process, he loses his relationships, sometimes his health, at the same time that more and more responsibility is probably on his shoulders. In the mid-40s, you probably have aging parents, most likely have a family or kids at some point that you have to take care of as well, or that you've chosen to take care of and bring into this world. And at that point in time, there's more people relying upon you than ever before, and yet your relationships have lapsed, or all you have is drinking buddies and you don't have an ability to go deep or talk about some of the more meaningful stressors or desires that you have in your life. This leads to a pretty unhappy state of being. Arthur Brooks also shared a study that I had a chance to listen to when I was at the Aspen Ideas Festival back in 2014, and I don't have the statistics firsthand, so take these with a grain of salt, but they're pretty close in line. There was a study conducted with married couples over the age of 70, something like that, maybe like been married for 30 or 40 years or more. And they asked the woman in the relationship, who is your best friend? And 80% of those women named someone other than their husband. 80% of those women had a best friend that was not named their husband. But when they asked the men that they were married to these women, who is your best friend? 80% of those men named their wife. They didn't maintain relationships the way that women had over the course of their life. So men are great at accumulating drinking buddies or work partnerships, but we're really shitty at forging deep and meaningful relationships over the course of our lives. And that takes a toll on us. There was a study that Peggy Orenstein, the author of Boys and Sex and the best-selling author of Girls and Sex, and she's been covering the genders for, I think, 25 or 30 years. There's a study in her book, Boys and Sex, where she says that the number one contributor to our long-term well-being are close relationships. The number one contributor to our long-term well-being are close relationships, whether those are platonic or romantic or both. And the linchpin to close relationships are emotional fluency, our ability to feel feelings, to name feelings, to express feelings, and to share feelings with other people. And that runs completely counter to what men have been trained to do over the course of our lives. If we feel a feeling, then we're considered weak. We're a pussy, we're a fag, we're gay, or any other horrible slur. We've been beaten down and told not to show our feelings, not to be a pussy. And so what do? We stuff them inside, we soldier on. And over a course of a lifetime, that gets pretty lonely. And when those emotions get bottled up, they always have a way of coming out. Most men are under this illusion that we can compartmentalize for long periods of time. That is a fucking lie. We can compartmentalize for short periods of time, and then those emotions need to get dealt with. Military veterans who have come back from combat, who have come back from war, who have seen atrocities, who have been in that front line of fire, of course, they can't deal with their emotions right in the battlefield where shit is going down, where things are blowing up all around them. They have to stay the course. They have to compartmentalize for a period of time. But we have a mental health crisis for our soldiers who have returned from war, who have not been given the tools or the skill sets to address those emotions, to bring those out and to heal those because they're bottled up and stored inside. That's why too many of our veterans are stuck on antidepressants for a lifetime. That's why they have panic attacks. That's why there's anxiety and depression. It's because we haven't equipped our heroes with the integrated tools to come back and deal with those emotions that are pent up. They are an extreme case of being on the front lines, but all of us know what that experience is like of bottling up those emotions. Now, if you give a shit about your friends, if you really care about them, are you going to be the one who's brave enough to lead first and step up in having some of these bigger conversations with them around mental well-being and mental health? And here's the deal, fellas. You don't need to couch it in a conversation or blanket it or make an invitation with the words, I want to have a mental health conversation with you. No, not at all. I'm a huge fan of the Trojan horse, right? Like, talk to them about what they want to talk about and then subtly guide to different places, to deeper places, but be the guy who's willing to be brave enough, courageous enough to go first. So I think the three stages, I want to share with you three stages that I've broken down and how I've had success with this, with my friends who I've had, since I think I was 5 or 6 years old, which is, we had a pattern of behavior for a long period of time around where we would bounce around the surface. But over the course of time, I've noticed that they are really open to going deeper if the stage is set appropriately. So the first step that I recognized I had to take when I wanted to be brave enough to lead to a deeper conversation, number one step is that I had to be prepared to go first. I had to be the one who was ready to initiate. I had to be the one who was willing to potentially be vulnerable and share something about myself first, to open up, to reveal. Now, one of the earliest examples of that was when I entered Sex Addicts Anonymous in 2013. And I was judicious and discerning in who I chose to tell first. There were certain of my friends who I felt safe enough with to open up and have that conversation with. And I would do a one-on-one discussion. I remember inviting one of my buddies to dinner. One of them didn't live in the area, so I made a phone call. but I had to be prepared to go first. And I'll never forget one of my really good friends, Lance, who was one of the first guys I told about entering Sex Addicts Anonymous. Well, I remember we were sitting at a bar, we had a burger and a beer, and I shared something with him, and it was the first time I'd really opened up. And I'll never forget some of the words that he said to me. He said, "It's about time. Like, about time that you finally opened up. Like, I've been waiting for you to reveal. Like, I've wanted to know more about you, Dominic, but you've always kind of been behind some sort of Chinese wall." I don't even know if it's appropriate to say Chinese wall anymore. I don't even know so I'm just going to call it a wall. So I apologize if that's not appropriate. I don't actually know what the origins of that are. But behind some wall where my feelings were. And in that evening, not only did he hear me out, but he shared some stuff about his life that I had no idea about. But that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't prepared to go first. Are you going to be brave enough to go first? The second step is to get really clear on your intention of where you're trying to lead. So is it A, are you trying to hear them and learn more about them? Is it B, you want them to hear you, like in the example that I just gave? Or C, is it both? Do you want to hear them and do you want to be heard as well? And it's really important to understand what's the intention, what's the place you're coming from. Because when I chose to share this story with my boy Lance, I trusted him that he'd be able to hear the story, hear where I was at, and to not give me advice or to try and, or that he wouldn't understand. Like, I knew he could handle it, so I knew that I wanted him to hear me. And if I could hear something back from him, that would be gravy. But it was really about like me sharing with him. And I ended up getting both, which was awesome. There are certain people in my life who aren't quite ready or prepared to hear certain things about where I am in my life. And I know that it would be a disservice to me and to them to drop something heavy on them because maybe they don't have the skill set to navigate something so heavy. But I do want to know what's going on in their lives. So I may go in with the intention of, I just want to hear them with no expectation that they'll have any desire to hear from me or have the ability to. And that's also sometimes just as useful because just providing them a space to know that I care, that I give a shit, that someone is willing to sit there and listen to them for a few minutes. Because you'd be surprised, fellas. You'd be shocked at how few people actually have someone listen to them for 10 minutes, even 10 minutes, without someone else trying to make it about them, without someone else being distracted by a text message or work. So few people, so few of the men in your life actually have anyone that will listen to them for 10 minutes, just them, undivided. And giving them that gift will take your relationship to a deeper place than you could possibly imagine. So get clear on the intention of, do you want to hear them? Do you want them to hear you? Or do you want both? And that will frame how you set up that conversation. And then the last place I want to take you, the third place, is just like have a few questions or conversation starters in the bank. And I thought I would put together 3 easy questions that you could ask and then 3 advanced questions that you could ask to like drive the conversation deeper. Because you may not have something that you want to reveal. You may just like want to hear about what's going on in your boy's life. So one of the easy questions that you can ask is, this is quite simple. How are you sleeping these days? Now, this one came from one of the men in the Great Man Mastermind, Steve Wilt, and I have his permission to share this one with you. But how are you sleeping these days? It seems simple enough, but like what's behind that question is if there's something on his mind, if he's stressed out, or if he's so busy, it will lead to a deeper conversation of what's going on there. So it's a great can opener conversation. How are you sleeping these days? Another easy question you can ask is, what's on the horizon that you're really excited about? Most guys don't have something that's on their future horizon that they're truly lit up about. And when they have a hard time identifying that, it's kind of like, hey, so how do you feel about that? You know, like what would be something that if you were to put that on your horizon, like learning a new skill or taking an adventure or doing that thing that you've been dreaming about, right? Like reading that book or fixing that motorbike, whatever it is. Like to actually give them the gift of getting them to think that way, because too many guys feeling like their lives are mundane. And again, another can opener question for deeper conversation. And the third really easy question that you can ask is there anything on your mind that you haven't had a chance to share with anyone yet? I love asking the question in that way because it gives someone subtle permission to share any problems they may have with you without wanting to admit that there's a problem. Because if you say that you haven't had a chance to share with anyone yet, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I don't have a problem. I was going to talk about it to someone at some point. I just haven't had a chance to yet. It kind of lets them off the hook. And it's a real subtle way to get someone to open up to you, so that they can let you know what's going on in their mind. And that can usually lead you down some really interesting roads of where they've been directing their thoughts, where they are in their inner world. 3 more advanced questions you can start to ask, like after you've kind of gotten them warmed up, because guys need some warming up when it comes to this shit. On a scale of 1 to 10, how lit up are you feeling by your life right now? Scale of 1 to 10, how lit up are you feeling by your life right now? You know, asking someone how things are going right now, you're usually going to get a good, I'm fine. But when you ask them how they're feeling lit up by their life, scale of 1 to 10, guys like that structure. You know, they'll give you a number. And lit up means like, are you excited about the life you're living? And I found that guys are pretty honest about that shit. You know, they'll say, I'm a 5. You know, work's good. Feels kind of like meh. You know, cool. Well, if you're an 8, what are you lit up by? All right, well then like you can get curious and see, are they really lit up or they just have a lot going on? Are they just really busy? It gives you an opportunity to probe and to go deeper and see what's going on behind the curtain. Here's another advanced question. How much porn are you watching these days? I like that one because it kind of shatters the bullshit, you know? That one goes direct to the core of what's happening. And I find that in most guys' lives, like when they're watching too much porn or watching more porn than they want to, then there's certainly something that's out of balance that can lead to a deeper conversation about their relationships in their lives, how stressed out they are. That is a great can opener of a question. And then the final advanced question that you could ask is, hey man, like who in the world understands you the most? Like who gets you the best? Now, most guys, many guys who are married, who have a partner, they may quickly point to their partner. Like my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my husband, my wife. Well, see if you can say besides them, right? Maybe ask them why they picked that person first. Oh, cool. Why? You know, what is it about them that they understand the most? But then say beyond that, because that goes back to the original point about guys later on in life, like always relying upon their spouse, but not having any real deep friendships outside of that. It's kind of like, well, then who else understands you and why? And would you like that to be different? Yeah, cool. I came to the realization lately that there aren't too many people who really understand all the things that are going on in my life. And maybe it's because I haven't been opening up about it. Would you be down for having a conversation about some of this stuff? You know, and then just see if the guy accepts the invitation or not. I've had a lot of success over the years, slowly dripping this stuff out. And it usually needs to happen in a one-on-one setting, because you do this in a group. All it takes is like one guy to get uncomfortable or to crack a joke or to, you know, go off into one of the typical conversations for that whole thing to be lost. I found that it's the best in a one-on-one conversation. And fellas, right now when we are quarantined, there's no better time to jump on a call and do the one-on-one thing, especially as most of us are starting to feel alone and isolated or suffocated. This is a prime time to check in on your buddies to see how their mental well-being is doing. So I leave you with this final question that I asked you at the beginning, which is, are you brave enough to lead your friends to deeper conversations around mental well-being and mental health? And if you are, then go out and test some of this stuff that you just heard about. And then write me at dominic@dominicq.com and tell me what you learned. Yet again, one more step on your path of discovering and living the great man within you.